Welcome to the Global Canadian Business Forum and the Canadian Expat, where we continue in our journey speaking with Canadians and Canadian organizations abroad so that we might gain a bit of inspiration, obtain some advice, and perhaps hear a few cautionary tales. Today, we go to Bahrain. The Kingdom of Bahrain is one of those countries that many have heard about, but few are able to locate on a map. It is, in fact, an island nation just off the eastern coast of Saudi Arabia. At just 800 square kilometers, the entire kingdom is only about 1/10 the size of Prince Edward Island, with a population of about 1.5 million people. The population consists of mostly expats, only 47% being actual Bahrainian. And of course, within that thriving expat community is a bustling group of Canadians. My next guest is Francine Mullins. Originally from Toronto, Francine moved to Bahrain in 2004 and has been working in real estate for the past 14 years. Currently, she represents Savills, Middle East. Francine, welcome to the Canadian Expat.
Thank you.
Francine, I have to say this. We always, prior to these interviews, we ask about whether there's anything specific that you've done to assist Canada. And your response perfectly exemplifies what we often say, and that's that Canadian expats are, in the very least, micro-influencers encouraging their friends and colleagues to travel to Canada. Thanks so much for doing that.
My pleasure.
And you've done much more than that, however. You've also helped developers back in Canada by promoting their properties to prospective buyers.
That's correct. Yeah. It was a few years ago, but I was working with a few developers in Toronto because we have a lot of people over here, both expats and locals, who particularly are looking for properties in Toronto, maybe to have something to send their kids to university, or for a summer place to visit, that sort of thing. So we were working together on that.
So what I'd really like to do is kind of paint a picture for those people that are watching about what life in Bahrain is like for a Canadian expat. So just a couple of quick questions. Being so close to Saudi Arabia, and maybe this is playing on some stereotypes, but is the Bahrainian culture stricter than, say, in the UAE?
Yeah, that's a tricky question. In some respects it is, and in a lot of respects it's not. We're very relaxed here. We do have a lot of people who work in Saudi, but come across the causeway every day, or their families live in Bahrain, because it's much freer over here. Freer maybe not being the right word, but much more relaxed, much easier to, you don't have to cover. Now I know women are driving now in Saudi, but that's only recent. You can drive here. Alcohol is available. It's just much different feel over here. We also have a lot of Saudis that come over on the weekend as well. Compared to the UAE, one example I can give you, and again, I'm not obsessed with alcohol. I'm just telling you that in the UAE, you need a license to buy it. In Bahrain, you do not.
So from your residence, what do you see out your front window? What sort of view do you have?
Well, at the moment they've just built some new villas across from me. So I'm looking at some villas. But other than that, I actually live close to one of the schools, one of the popular international schools here. So I can see the school, and my view is not too bad because I have a little greenery with their track and their field. But a lot of times, a lot of areas in Bahrain, you're basically looking at sand, to be honest. There's a couple of areas where, considering we're an island, you'd think there'd be more of them. But there are a few areas where you have beautiful views, but most of them, they're not that fantastic.
Now, thinking about some of the other areas in that region, like the UAE, I know that there's often problems with smog and pollution. Is the same thing in Bahrain?
Yeah, we do have a lot of pollution here. So it does always feel a little bit smoggy. You don't see a lot of stars here at night.
I understand that right now, although it's middle of October, actually closer to the end of October, and it's 36 degrees now,
Yeah.
and it's 9 a.m. in the morning.
It's 9 a.m. in the morning, and the last few days have been very humid. I did hear on the radio the other day 90% humidity.
Wow.
But winter is lovely. In the winter, it will go to, during the day, maybe 18, 20 degrees. At night, maybe down to 12 to 16, but it can feel quite cold.
Nice. So, if you don't mind, can you walk us through what a typical day in the life of Francine Mullins would be like?
Well, for me, I'm very fortunate because I'm working freelance here in real estate. So I don't have office hours per se. So for myself, it would probably be get up in the morning, have a coffee, go to the gym, come back, do some work from home, go into the office perhaps, or if I've got clients, if I've got appointments, I could be driving all over the island for the day. And then when I get home, I mean, it's pretty normal. Have something to eat, maybe go meet up with a couple of friends, watch TV. We don't have quite the extensive. Well, they do have Netflix now. I don't have Netflix, so our TV provider is not fantastic. There's probably about 6 channels that I would watch, but it's very social over here.
Social in what
You
way?
could be out every night if you wanted to.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of have to. There's a cautionary tale there. You kind of have to say no to some things.
So, can you tell us a little bit about your role as a freelance real estate agent?
Sure. I deal in sales and rentals. Sales are picking up here in Bahrain, but they sort of fell off a few years ago. So it's mostly leasing that I do. It's interesting here, but because Bahrain is so small, you tend to deal with the entire island, which people think is not that difficult because it is a small place. But we've had so much growth in the last few years that it can be a bit tricky. It could take to drive one side of the island to the other without traffic would be about 45 minutes. With traffic could take a lot longer. Traffic can be a little intense here. But yeah, it's basically a lot of new arrivals that come in who maybe don't know the areas, that they want to live in. So even though we're just showing them properties, we're also showing them the island as well. I'll show them where the schools are. I'll show them where the grocery stores are, where the expat clubs are. Give them a feel of the place. It can be pretty overwhelming when you move here and you have no idea.
You'd probably be the perfect person to ask about this, but for those people that are moving to Bahrain for the first time, can you give us a sense of the differences in perhaps even like the business culture between Canada and Bahrain?
I'd say it's a bit slower moving here. One of the favorite sayings is inshallah, meaning God willing, and things can take a lot longer here than we're used to over in Canada. But I find that that's probably a difference between us and the UAE as well. We mix with the locals a lot more. It's not just expats. So you are dealing with a lot of locals in business. They're very forthcoming. They're very easy to talk to, but it's a lot of meetings and coffees, and things can take a while to get moving. I know a lot of people get frustrated when they first come over here because they're used to things happening just so, and it's not quite the case here. And getting from one place to another can be tricky because, as I said, driving is a little bit insane, and traffic can be a nightmare.
So for somebody who is faced with a situation where they're now going to be moving to Bahrain, maybe they're being relocated or they've selected to relocate to Bahrain, what sort of advice would you give?
If they've made a decision to move here, I say give it a minute. When you get here, it can be overwhelming. It takes about 6 months to settle in and find your footing. So sometimes people come over, and again, as I said, they're frustrated a little bit with the way things move, and maybe you can't find everything that you're looking for. You might not get the answers that you're looking for. Just give it a little time, take a breath, get to know the place, get to know the people, and then you will settle in super well. Be cautious of housing allowances, if I can touch back on my area of expertise, because I find a lot of people come over here and they've been told something by employers of what they can get for a certain budget. I'd ask around about that, because a lot of the numbers that I get told, the expectations are a little bit too high. If that
Too
makes
high
sense.
in the sense that they think things are more reasonably priced?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I've been told, just for example, so many people come to me and say, well, I understand I can get a new villa with a swimming pool for 450 BD. Well, that's not actually true. It was years ago, but a lot of companies haven't updated their figures. So just, yeah, manage your expectations and ask a lot of questions before you come over here.
There often can be a bit of a disconnect between what corporate office
Yes,
thinks is a situation and what is actually a situation on the ground.
exactly. Exactly.
So you'd mentioned that it's a very social atmosphere in Bahrain. I'm wondering about the Canadian presence and whether or not there's a Canadian club or an organization that you were part of.
We did used to have, there was a Canadian in Bahrain club that we would celebrate July 1st, we'd celebrate Thanksgiving. The woman that was running that has left now, so it's a little bit ad hoc. A couple of years ago, we did Canadian Thanksgiving at the rugby club. We do have our Canadians in Bahrain Facebook group, which is fantastic. A lot of questions go on there, and there's a lot of people, who are able to answer things. Uh, but it's also very exciting whenever you meet another Canadian. And I do feel we get a real connection as soon as you meet. I have quite a few Canadian friends over here. Even I've actually run into people that I knew back in Canada. Yeah.
Francine, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Very nice to meet you. And yes, please, if anybody ever has any questions, feel free to reach out. I have been here. I'm in my 16th year, so things have changed a lot since I arrived. But I'm trying to keep up with everything. And yeah, if I can just say, it is a fantastic place, and it really is my second family over here.
Fantastic. Would it be okay for us to put your email address in the link below?
Yes, absolutely. That would be great.
Fantastic. We'll also put a link to your office so people have an understanding of exactly what you're doing.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much.
And thank you so much for everybody watching. Truly appreciate it. If you've liked this video, please click like. If you'd like to participate in one of these conversations, please comment below. Let us know, and we'd love to have you. Thank you very much. Until next time.